We're all being told to get on electric motorcycles. Let's go electric. Electrify your ride. Pretty soon, if the government has its way, you'll have no choice but to go electric. Even the criminals are going green. Now, it's no secret that MAG is violently opposed to the government's plans to remove our choice to ride the motorcycles that suit our needs. But that isn't what this video is about. To make owning an electric motorcycle viable, the first thing that you need to be able to do is keep it charged. Now, you're in control with that at home, but what's the state of the public charging infrastructure in the UK? A recent report by the House of Commons Public Accounts Committee said, "We are not convinced that the government is paying sufficient attention to the practical challenges consumers face in adopting low carbon technologies and how to overcome them. The challenges can be significant," it says. For example, ensuring the adequate charging network to support the projected rapid expansion in the use of electric cars. The report recommends that the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero should assess the challenges consumers might face. But in this report, they were clearly talking about charging infrastructure for cars. Now, it's my belief that had they been looking at the charging infrastructure that is suitable for motorcycles, the report would have been even more damning. So we're all off again to the Motorcycle Live show at the NEC in Birmingham. Once again, the manufacturers will be showing off their offerings for electric motorcycles amongst other things. Now, not long ago, a big fanfare was made about the opening of one of Europe's largest EV charging hubs here at the NEC in Birmingham. It was such a landmark event that the West Midlands Mayor got his photo opportunity. They even sent the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, down to cut the ribbon at the opening ceremony. So you would be forgiven for thinking that at the UK's premier motorcycle show, held at the NEC, home to one of Europe's largest EV charging hubs, finding a charging bay for a motorcycle shouldn't be too difficult to do. But think again. I did some investigation into the charging infrastructure that's available for motorcyclists at the NEC. At first I looked on the Motorcycle Live website to see what it had to say. Okay, so the Motorcycle Live website, as you can see, plenty of information about what to do. There's nothing there about charging. Let's take a look at the travel and parking. So as you can see, free bike parking at the Honda bike park, a cloakroom with a £2 charge, but no other information there in terms of charging an electric motorcycle. I couldn't find the answer there, so I went to have a look at the NEC's website to see what it has to say about parking and electric vehicle charging. So this is the NEC website. As you can see, we've got information here for motorcycle parking. It says it's free of charge. Doesn't say a great deal more. Let's take a look at the electric vehicle charging. So what does this tell us? So yes, as you can see, it's telling you about the new 157 kilowatt chargers. And the 30 fast chargers, tells you all about that. Other charging points, 22 slow charging points in the car parks. There's North Car Park 2 has got 2 charging points, East Car Park 1 has got 6 charging points, and South Car Park 7 has got 6 charging points. There's additional 8 charging points in the Express Premium car park. So what happens if you try to pre-book EV parking, and what's the charges? So if we go here, we can select the event, which is obviously the Motorcycle Live. That in there, put the date, let's go for the 18th. One day, get prices. So what does this show us? Here we go for the NEC EV Park and Charge at East 3 Car Park. Electric vehicles only. So guaranteed parking space, electric vehicles only, book now. What happens if you press book now? Takes you to the payment page where you can put in your personal details and of course your car registration number, not your motorcycle registration number, your car registration number. So it's not clear, is it? Can you pay and book and pay in advance for an electric motorcycle at this charging facility? Not being able to find the information I needed on the website, I decided to ring the NEC and ask the question directly: do you have any motorcycle charging bays? The lady that answered didn't know the answer, but she was very pleasant and said that she would get back to me. About a day later I received this email. So I went along to the NEC to take a look for myself. And while I was there, I just happened to bump into this chap.
I'm Phil Hack from the Chief Technical Officer at the EV Network.
When it comes to motorcycles, it seems that nobody's given an awful lot of thought as to what the provision needs to be and what it should be. Can you give us an idea as to what you can and can't do from a motorcycle perspective?
So I guess it's early days with motorcycles. I think in terms of the infrastructure, we secure new grid connections for sites to deliver EV electric vehicle charging, whether that's a van, a car, I guess including motorbikes. In terms of the connector, which is going to be the key point, making sure that there's the connectors that go on the motorbikes are consistent with the connectors that go on the cars, because that in effect will open up the growing network of EV charging to the motorcyclists, in terms of allowing them to go on those longer journeys and not just rely on home charging. So I think as long as the technology is consistent, which I think it is, I've done a little bit of research. They use a CCS charger. Which is what we have here at the NEC, multiple chargers on this site. So as long as the manufacturers of the vehicles recognise that's the most prolific charging infrastructure, particularly on in public spaces, so on the highways and byways, then I can't see a problem. In terms of space, obviously here, typically you have a standard 2.4 metre by 4.8 metre parking bay, which is obviously adequate for a motorbike. At this location, actually they're slightly larger. The chargers, if I can just point you over to these chargers, so these chargers allow full access, so in effect wherever the charge port is on the motorcycle you can plug it in. This is the CCS, it's actually called a CCS2 connector I mentioned, so as long as that's consistent with the motorbike, then you've got no problem turning up, charging, grabbing a coffee or using the facilities at a location like this.
You're effectively paying the same parking charges as if you're parking in one of the normal car parks.
So this is, at the NEC they have two types of charging. They have the AC car park, which is the slow charging, and the parking is the same at any other car park, for cars at least. For the DC area there's no parking fees for parking and or parking temporarily and charging. So whilst you're here, I think there's a limit of 90 minutes. Now, I'm not sure how much time a bike needs, but one would imagine it's a lot less than 90 minutes. So the idea is you come here, you charge, and then you go off to where you're heading to. So this area specifically is not designed for people to spend all day here. That's not the use case particularly. But I guess in terms of the AC car park, if you're paying for parking, then effectively you can have access to an AC charger as well.
Okay, and these spaces, they have to be booked in advance?
You can actually, as long as there's availability, book a parking space effectively just before you come through the gate.
Right.
So it's ANPR, so as long as you put the registration in, then the barriers will open. and our role is to identify sites where there is demand for EV charging, public EV charging, and we get new grid connections, we build out the infrastructure and work with our partners, including the likes of BP Pulse. So that's what we do as an organisation. So for us, it's all about the sites and the opportunities. So if there's I don't know, a motorcycle cafe that is starting to think about how do I support that transition, then reach out to either someone like us or another organisation where they can say, actually, we can install some charging. So I know the whole coffee culture with motorcyclists and cake is important, so speak to those organisations and see if you can encourage them to start putting some infrastructure in as well.
On another visit, I managed to have a conversation with a consultant who works for a very large company that works with the petrol forecourt operators. Naturally, petrol forecourt operators are looking to make a transition themselves so that they can start providing charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. Now, this gentleman didn't want to appear on camera, but it was clear from my conversation with him that he hadn't given a second's thought to what the needs for motorcyclists are. He was fully open and admitted this. This is simply something that is not on the radar, it is not being discussed. The Department for Transport say that they are working with the industry to electrify the PLV sector. Now, the PLV sector, for those of you that do not understand the acronym, they're talking about private light vehicles. Now, to you and I, we're really talking about motorcycles. The MCIA and Zemo partnership drew up an action plan. The DFT say that they are working with them on this plan. Let's see what it says about charging infrastructure. So, with the strapline engaging with industry to ensure zero-emission PLVs are considered and incorporated into the development of EV charging infrastructure. The document says compatibility with the high-power charging network, the provision of dedicated and secure charging bays, and the creation of off-vehicle charging facilities are some of the areas for consideration. Not much of a plan to consider charging infrastructure for motorcycles, is it? Why don't we have a plan that actually delivers charging infrastructure for motorcycles? MAG, over a couple of years, has been responding to all the government consultations on charging infrastructure. We've been making public statements. We believe that the charging infrastructure strategy of the government is not going to be sufficient to provide a charging infrastructure that works for motorcyclists. We said this nearly 2 years ago, and let's face it, we're right. So regardless of the government's policy position on the electrification of motorcycles, whether they stick with this battery electric only stupidity or allow alternative technologies to be considered, we embrace the fact that electric motorcycles will be a part of the future of motorcycling. It is therefore vital that the charging infrastructure meets the needs of motorcyclists. This is why we are calling again for the government to listen to us, stop considering and start delivering for motorcyclists.